All right, and that is Livestream number 22 for this thing. All right, let me fire up the chat. That dial-up screen. That's let's get this thing rolling. And I'm gonna post this to my Discord group. And that pretty much does that. As a matter of fact, this group really needs a expire never, no limits. Okay, cancel. I need to essentially post this to the Game Jolt page in the description. Streams of join this group dedicated to community. Livestream announcements. I should really start putting dashes in this thing. How can you make a line without doing this stuff? I don't suppose it's possible. Hey, okay, no, it does the same thing. God damn it. Okay, so what happens if you do this stuff? Yeah, that doesn't really work as a format now, does it? Oh well. Whatever. decide to do it. Now, so the thing that was suggested, is to use, to create a temporary object. So general object, create player class object, create level ascension class object, and create network class object. Now, I'm going to go ahead and do the following. So this is the stuff that was actually now it's CPP object general. It should be the one that I just created. CPP OBJ general. Okay. What's further down? CPP OBJ general. Player. Another OBJ general. Okay. So before I trail off, I gotta make a backup of this thing. 117 megabytes. Whoa. Brilliant. Backup 003. Objects. Let's put a bit of a description there. Okay, now let's move first of all into the Ascension level CPP. There's bound to be a shitload of error messages in here. Yeah. Okay, so this was right. This was the pointer acquisition. We'll figure this out later on. Now, without a pointer, this is going to start having issues. So, I have included the DTC player. So let's do handles. create our handle. Yeah. Let's do this. Now in here, after we create the object level ascension, then we need to say a level ascension handle player will be equals to our player. Right. Oh yeah, and this stuff has to be assigned in the begin script event. So assign all the handles. So logically, after the begin script, we should have a handle on our player object. So this stuff, anytime I have this, whoops, I need to replace it all with this. 18 occurrences replaced. What is the next error? Well, no errors in that one. So it says liar. No errors in this one. So it says liar. Okay, so with this stuff, we're also going to introduce that back in there, and we're gonna keep the handle. And now let's address the errors. The pylon type. Okay, another thing. So we need to create DTC level what is it? DTC level ascension, yeah. And we're gonna create a handle on the level. Now, inside of the network object, we're gonna say that the handle level is supposed to be this thing. Okay. Okay. So now anything regarding handle the level stuff, I should be able to locate and replace promptly here. All the pylon array stuff. Alright, let's do the main level stuff first. So the reference point player is not supposed to be on anymore though. Oh yeah, and include только что сходил. Jeez. People notifying us of stuff. Man. One sec. Okay, that should be it. Let's see what we can see. What date is today? Today's the 7th. Yowza. It's already the 7th, eh? Anyways, I'm trying to transfer stuff. Trying to transfer stuff to header files. Now, why does this thing still return that it exists? It is really not supposed to. In fact, maybe it's the so how about this? I will copy F. I need to replace this with nothing so that I could see all the places, 16 places that this has been used. Okay, so I'm gonna need to just see all the places where I have used that function, and I'm gonna need to appropriately use the handle. But technically, it would probably be wise. New X, new Y. Right, probably be wise to send the stuff, or have internal variables, and instead of, yeah, might as well actually do that. It's probably better to have internal variables than setting and getting the external stuff for the player. So player tracking for network message updates. Hold X, hold Y, hold Z, new X, new Y, new Z. Now it's a float value, and we do that. Now, at this place, in this thing here, we specifically have, and we can probably set the old X to like -100 just in case. Whoops, equals -100, so they're guaranteed to be different. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna still use old X and old Y, new X, new Y. Now that they are internal variables, player, because this just does the tracking for the one player, and we're just gonna go ahead and use the handle on that value there. And yeah, pylon array size. So this is level transfer stuff. So this I need to grab from the handle level. Is that gonna work? Apparently. If this actually works, it's gonna be a goddamn miracle. Okay. So once again, this is where we're actually acting as a client. So we're gonna get the player object and work with internal variables instead. Oh, that's not level ascension. This is supposed to be the player handle. That's right. There we go. Okay, so don't do the actual data. Right, we've already gotten the actual data though. And we'll set the old data to the new data so that it gets updated. Now, remove terrain pylons would have to be a level handle function. We're gonna set the lift, or we get the lift of the server. From the network message, that is. And now over here, I wish there was some kind of a width function. But problem is that a lot of this stuff is actually a lot of stuff is actually pretty damn foreign to me. You see, this has a lot to do with recreating the level using a lot of variables that are located in the level. But it's either do a lot of this or do a lot of supplying of custom variables into a function and just firing that one function, but having a lot of that stuff as supplied variables. Okay, well, it's not complaining yet. What kind of errors do we have here? None, apparently. Okay, so what happens when I run this? Is it gonna be a one big hunk of loogie? Is that not gonna post? Or there were build errors. Of course there were file general obj. What? What? It's in the level ascension stuff. Am I loading any objects in here? Not that I can see. I am, however, loading objects in this thing. Build level. So probably a good idea that I build the level first, maybe? How many errors were there? 35 errors. Still complaining about the pylons. Unresolved external symbol, public static, unsigned integer, DTC level ascension pylon 3. Pylon 3. Let's Google this. See what Google tells me. Visual Studio. Definitions to match. You forgot to add the definitions to match the declarations of X and Y. Peculiar stuff. These are all the OBJ files. There's a general.obj? What the hell? Project template. What kind of a variable is supposed to return? Static unsigned integer. So this pylon 3, 35 errors. So pylon 3, static unsigned. So what if I go just regular integer? 35 errors, and where's pylon 3? Did one error get substituted by another? Certainly seems like it. Search error. There's pylon 3. Okay, unresolved external symbol public static integer. Okay. Studio. You're not linking with the required library. Go to properties, linker, additional library dependencies, and add path to open CV libs. Properties linker, additional library dependencies, and add path to open CV libs. Where's properties? Properties. Linker, additional libraries. No, it's additional library dependencies, yes. And add path to open CV libs. Inherit from parent and project defaults. What the fuck did I just do? Alright, let's see. There were build errors. 1 out of 1, apparently. Oh yeah, that's because cannot open. What the hell? Okay, well this doesn't mean that all other libraries have been solved. It just means it can't open the file. AGK Windows 64 library. Jesus. Well, this is a big fuck you To me, that is. Platform active 64. Ah, man. What have I done? Output file. Project name 64exe. Additional library dependencies. So let me actually... This is why we make backups. And don't fuck around with the core file. Platform, Windows library, debug 64. So that's what that was. Okay. Gotcha. Hey, we're back to 35. Nice. Ah, fuck me. Okay. So. So general. Let's see, general.cpp. Let's get properties. And not a whole lot we can do here. Okay. Let me see if I can ask somebody on the Slack forum. Okay. I need to get rid of my message because so general, let's get rid of this stuff. Yep. Delete message. Feels like the Slack forum chat is actually made by the same people who made Discord. It's very similar. But anyways, I'm trying to figure this stuff out. I'm trying to figure out why it's complaining. Unresolved external symbol. Okay. general glow shader. Glow shader. Shader, Skynet, Shift, Enter, Sprite, Sprite, Sprite. Okay, hold on a second. So doesn't seem to be using boy. Okay. Oh yeah, and I wanted to ask the people on Restream about the chat stuff, and I just got a notification. What did I do? I got multiple notifications. Oh. Interesting. Alright, let's see. I need to quickly do a double check, make sure that I'm asking the question that's actually related to something real. Come on. Here we go. Load it up. Okay. And I need to make sure that my messages don't actually show up. Yeah, it doesn't seem like they do. Uh-oh, my phone's dying. Not good. Not good at all. Anyways, I'm kind of stuck. Anyway, either way right now. Arrow 1, arrow 2, arrow 3. Wait, what? Oh, that's SPR. Okay. Hold on a second. Arrow 1, arrow 2, arrow 3. So what if I send them to just integers? None of this other stuff. Oh, less errors apparently, so let's just switch these suckers to integers. Let's see if this does anything. Anything that's an unsigned integer, just be a regular integer. It stores the ID of these things either way. No. Okay, now we just got 8 errors. Integer, pylon, integer, integer, and integer. Let's take a look. Five errors, okay. Skybox. There's more errors on the net net.h. Oh yeah, okay. So screw using unsigned stuff. Okay, more build errors. ID, blur shader stage. Well, the blur shader stage would be in this one. Somewhere. No, it would be in the general. Yes. So anything we're loading the file in, it's basically complaining. Is the errors because you didn't include the uint type? Probably. Probably, but to be honest, the engine assigns positive values as IDs either way, so This is the C++ is kind of a new subject to me. So changing the variable types to integers, which is a positive value, can only be a positive value, seems to be fixing the errors, at least for the time being, until it probably hits something else. What are you using static ints for? Well, these were the definitions for the return values of the engine functions. So if I actually go over to, let's say over here, when I'm loading the objects, it says that this function returns a static unsigned integer. So I started creating variables to store the IDs as the same formats, but later on I found out it didn't really matter if you just created them as integers, and I just never changed this stuff. It wasn't a problem until I started moving this one single main CPP file. I started distributing stuff into separate header files because I had 3,000 lines of code and I had one game mode, and there's supposed to be 3 more game modes plus a story mode. So it's, before it got out of hand, I started moving stuff into their own header files. And now that I have, for some reason, the types of variables are causing, unresolved external symbol errors. And I had 35 of them here, so I slowly started changing stuff up and trying to figure this stuff out. You seem to know quite a lot about C++, so I have to say I am extremely lucky somebody dropped by to point that out. Is the error because you didn't use the unsigned integer type? So what is the unsigned integer type def? What does def stand for? That's an abbreviation I'm not really familiar with. Type def. Oh, type definition. Well, I was using the let's see if this is going to be an unsigned integer. So I got 4 errors. If I try to compile, and well, okay, it's not complaining now. There's certain assets that it does complain with. Shaders it does. I think objects it does too. So I think if I set the sprite loading as an unsigned, yeah, okay, well, anyways, there's only four items that it's complaining about now, probably because it hasn't gotten to the other header files. So let's see, blur shader stage 1. This is 1 second. Okay, so Okay, so we have blur shader stage 1. This is supposed to be shader. Can I copy stuff from here? No. Maybe not. Okay. General. It's right here. Blur shader stage 1. So maybe it's because it's a static integer. Okay, so that was the issue. And now DT network. No, not with these files. You probably have define, unsigned integer, unsigned int. Well, I mean, I have a template file included, which if I delete it, like if I have uint variable declared, right? So that's gonna work. If I comment out the template, which is the template you start working on your game with this engine, this will effectively not recognize the unsigned integer data type. Not now for some reason, but you know, whatever. If it's just regular integer, I don't mind working with that. It's not a big deal. Public static unsigned integer DTC net ID. So that would be the ID, this integer. I prefer ints. Yeah, well, once again, I was using unsigned integers because this is my first time working in Visual Studio, like from scratch. I've never worked in Visual Studio outside of opening the Unreal Engine project, trying to make sense out of Visual Studio, and that scared the shit out of me. So I'm using this engine to kind of learn the ropes. Unsigned integer ID. I changed that, didn't I? I mean, I can just all the uints. Let's just change them to an int. There we go. That's how to do it. Unsigned int is nasty, as when it goes below 0, it just wraps. Yes, that sounds about right. Unresolved external symbol, public static integer, not DTC, not ID. Oh, it's the last one. God damn it! Where's the ID? Oh, static. Okay, what's the next error? So how did you find the stream? Twitch or somewhere else, maybe? On Twitch. Gotcha. Okay, so we have a running application. Now, let's figure out all this stuff. Oh man, if I knew how to work with objects and classes, I would have started this properly, because moving stuff moving stuff into this thing is a bitch and a half. I do have here, as long as you're here, it may be a while until you can see what exactly I'm working on, but I do have, thankfully, backups, and I've got the export build that I sent somebody to test out the networking client stuff, so we could try to test the online co-op. This is the game. You know, basic platformer. But now that the game is kind of getting big, I need to start moving stuff into headers, and considering that right now the entire game just loads up all of the assets at once for this one game mode that's playing right now, and it's a little tricky because once it gets to the story mode, there's gonna be twice as many assets that I need to load up. So that's gonna suck. And that's why I need to now load up and unload assets depending on which level I'm working on. So instead of having this one 3,000 line project that's only gonna get bigger and bigger, I figured I would do you know, loading, creation of objects, and loading stuff dynamically. Okay, so bloom blur update. How about instead of this, I just want to get my image back. I will worry about effects afterwards. So is this using an engine of your own? This uses a the App Game Kit game engine. Okay, if I put sync, there we go, this thing. The App Game Kit game engine is a multi-platform iOS, Android, HTML5, and Windows, and Linux, I think, platform. It's pretty good. It's on sale on Steam, I think. They've had it for a while, but I got it on Humble Bundle for like 15 bucks. So that was really lucky. And I know this company. Like this is the company that made the App Game Kit. Sync identifier not found. Right. This is actually something I need to take a look in the template. I think this was a 64-bit template. So this entire, like, if you work in C++, it comes with a template that you can just copy and paste, and it has all of the stuff set up for you, right? All the basics. AGK sync, that's right. I'm an idiot. Okay, so AGK. This engine supports both basic and C++. So with basic, they have their own editor. With C++, you know, you work in Visual Studio. And I started this project in basic back in 2015, and I figured, you know, okay, I have visuals, which means that half the stuff should start working now. Now instead of sync here, CPP object general. So this is where I'm supposed to see the visuals. Let's see. I've been looking for something like this. Building your own engine is a drag. I have gone through a course of building your own game engine in Java, right? Because I was looking into like how to make Minecraft type of deal voxel game. Just because I figured it would be nice for practice. And that was, you know, creating the vertex buffer alone in order to import 3D models. The funny thing is, in GameMaker Studio, you also need to do that, but it's so much simpler. As in, like, yes, the OpenGL. There was some sort of a library library that the guy was using, that you download the library and you use the functions in that library in order to create the vertex buffer stuff, and you should see it in C++. To be honest, I'm getting more and more comfortable with Visual Studio, so I most likely will, right? Just for the sake of seeing how it's done, because I want to start making games on Unreal Engine using C++ instead of Blueprints, because Blueprints, once you have complex games, it's just spaghetti. It's terrible. It's doable, but it's terrible, and it's so long. And I tried to start learning C++ coding in Unreal Engine via tutorials, and it's I open up a project and I can't follow anything what's going on, right? Like, I'm thinking, what the hell is when you have something and then two colons in front of it, after it, and then you have a function. It's like, what the hell does this mean? Nobody explains this stuff in the tutorial. So I started with this thing, and I figured a lot of stuff started to make sense, because it was actually a video made by this by the company of how to port basic code into C++ code, and most of the stuff was essentially just putting AGK, which is the name of their library set, colon, and then the name of function, and the function looks exactly the same as in basic. It just starts with a capital letter, right? So I'm like, okay, this is pretty straightforward. The stuff that I had to learn are vectors, so these are dynamic arrays, and just very up stuff like for loops and if statements, because their formatting in basic is just atrocious. But anyways, so level ascension, generate terrain. Oh, no, what the fuck? No, this, here, this thing. Bloom update. So this thing is supposed to fire every single cycle. So in the general CPP, Bloom update. So this whole thing, I think this whole thing actually works. Target quad. No, that's the blur stuff, isn't it? Yeah, that's the blur. OpenGLtutorials.org. Yeah, I saw that the first message, so definitely gonna have to take a look into that. But at the point when I have the free moments, shut up, to do so. Okay, so you see there's a sprite that fades in and out. That means that there's a collision with an object going, which means that the application is working. You see also my key, the key that unbinds, the key that unbinds the mouse is also working. So that means that this code is working. It's actually firing everything that needs to be fired. Most likely the fade, let me see the fade. I really need to change the whole fade effect. It's terrible right now. I thought I could use one single fade function for death and level transition, and it's terrible. I need to rewrite that completely. But Dream Temple CNET. I'm just trying to get some product in a playable form that I can put it up on GameJolt and start raising money for continued development for more like story stuff and competitive stuff. Janko, how's it going? So many vectors. Yes, these are, I'm using these as dynamic arrays because I have things that dynamically get added and subtracted and whatnot. I'm using a dynamic array for player. Like when a new player adds, obviously we need to add that new player to the server, so that I probably could make that nicer. It's just at this point, like, what are your suggestions? It's just at this point, it's, if it's not broken, don't fix it. it's just for the sake of, you know, working. But if you do have a suggestion for a nicer way, by all means, right? I don't, you know, have I don't have a clue of where I might be doing something wrong, right? Because when you start learning C++, you learn just everything, and you have to figure out stuff where things apply, right? In my case, I first started looking into, okay, I need to know how to make arrays. Okay, shit, I can't expand arrays. I can't expand the size of arrays without having to create a new array with a bigger size, copy the old one in a new one, and then delete the old one, and that's how I get a bigger array. Well, that kind of sucks. In GameMaker Studio, you have things called data structures, which can be dynamically shrunk, expanded, and there's like two-dimensional data structures, one-dimensional, and you can mold them. If you need something added, you can just add it to the end. And somebody said, look into vectors. And they said, okay, vectors is a dynamically expanding data system. So, okay, that sounds about right? And I just started learning that, and it works. It actually works. Okay, so in this map, I have fade alpha. One is fade in. Finally, finish the infix, prefix, and inverter using binary free data. So was that, Janko, was that your like term papers deal, or was that like just a project? Struct of vector 3, float x, float y, float z. Ah, okay, that's pretty cool. However, the problem with that is that I still have to, unfortunately, break it down at the point when I'm sending the data from the vector to the client. The functions that we have in order for sending data is this. Let's see, where is it? Message. Here we go. So this is the function, add network message float. We also have one for integer and one for a string. That's all we get with this particular engine. So I still need to basically, I could have one single vector for sure for rotation stuff. It's just that I still have to break them down into single values, send them one at a time, or add them one at a time to a network message, and then reassemble them into a 3 size vector on the client side. So it technically still does the same thing. Pylon rotation, vector 3, float x, float y, and float z, vector pylon rotation. Okay, so pylon rotation.x would effectively bring the first value in the definition. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so this I'm going to actually add to my useful notes on the Discord group. Let's see, Livestream alerts. Useful tutorials and scripts. Okay. Okay, so this is very useful. Thanks for letting me know. Yes, pylon rotation 0, which is the index of, you know, the array-like address. and that basically would do it. So that's pretty cool. It makes the whole thing more compact. But does I'm guessing doing a single array, a single vector with 3 values takes up less memory than 3 vectors with a single value, right? Because then you're kind of dropping the address data from the 2, right? In a level, I'm starting with about 200 objects, so that's actually pretty useful. I can use one single. Is there a limit to how many values you can store in a vector? Like some languages have 1-dimensional array, 2-dimensional array, and then you're fucked. No more arrays. So with vectors, I'm assuming you can just have like 20 different values, in which case you can store a class in a vector. That's pretty cool. How about, okay, in GameMaker Studio, there is a function that allows you to convert a data structure, which is kind of like a vector in C++. It allows you to convert the data structure into a string, right? And this allows you to save the string, then recall the string from like a saved file on a different computer or a different game, and you can use a function to load the string as a data structure, and it's going to load it back, right? Reading from the string. Is there anything like that in the C++ world? Because I mean, in that case, all I can do is convert the vector into a string, just send the entire string, and then read the string on the client game and recreate the vector. Obviously, I can probably come up with my own format of a string, but at this point, what I was actually doing with the engine, you're limited to the amount of data you can put into one single data packet or data message. So you start a message, and you say it returns the ID of the message, like over here. You start a message, it returns the ID. Then you start packaging stuff in a certain order, right? I usually put in the ID of the sending application. So if there's 5 different players, you know which one it came from. The ID of the message. So depending on what this value is, it'll tell the server or client what to do with the following message and what format it's in, right? And then I'll send another integer for the size of the following array. Now here's the problem, and I solved this problem. It's the fact that I have about 200 objects in the randomly generated world. So essentially what happens is each object, so each pylon has rotation XYZ, position XYZ, the type of pylon used, and the rate at which it's rotating. So that's 8 messages in one pylon. I've got 200 pylons, right? So you do the math. I did a count. My client was not receiving all the pylons, and I figured out that I could only send about 45 pieces of 45 pylons worth of data. So 8 messages per pylon multiplied by 45, and not to forget the first 3 messages. And that was basically the limit of the engine, which, you know, is still pretty damn generous. It comes up to like, what, 800 something messages in 800 pieces of data in a single message. So that's pretty damn good. And it's not the limit of how many messages, it's just the limit of total data. So like long strings would probably take up way more data than, you know, like a certain amount of integers. So I had to break down the entire level of randomly generated objects into sections and send those sections as separate messages. So yeah, that's basically what I've been doing. Fade alpha, let's do that as 0 actually. Hey, nice. It's actually working. I can't believe it's actually working. Okay, so first of all, be right back. So evil Tacon? Evil Tacon? No, evil taco. Sorry, I can't. I'm trying to read messages on a tiny ass monitor, right? So I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name like 20 different times. Thanks for the advice and the input and the insight on the better usage. I would have probably had to spend a good couple of hours trying to wrap my head around the system if I try to learn on my own. So it's very nice to have somebody with experience giving you heads ups and pointers. So you say you're not really working on any games, but what's your like programming background? Because that's you seem to be pretty damn fluent in programming. And I'll be right back. I'll read your message in just a second. You say you work at Codemasters as a programmer. What is Codemasters? Let's see. Okay, so first of all, when I press escape, it doesn't escape the level. Now that should be a function inside of the general code. If you actually, there's one thing I'm wondering if you could see if maybe you can make out the make any sense out of it. So I was trying to figure out, since I'm moving stuff into their own headers, right? I was trying to figure out how to make the object class the current level we're playing in to get data from object of class player, right? Let's say in the level there's certain things that happen when the player when the player's at a certain XYZ position. The variables for the XYZ position would be located in the object player, right? So I need the object level, which has a script that keeps running on a loop, right? Over and over and over again. I needed to keep accessing the XYZ position of the player so that it could trigger certain things, right? So people started telling me about having to set up pointers, right? So I have things like, I've been doing things like this, where first I had to create a pointer to object player, then make that new object, then, or the class of create a pointer of class player, make a new object, same thing for the other object, and then I create my object level and I send the pointer to those objects. And this is how I was supposed to be able to then read the variables and fire functions by doing, you know, name of my object, pointer, and do minus left arrow or right arrow or whatever it's called, and then doing, you know, the name of the variable. And I kept I could not get this stuff to set up. And somebody on the development forum for this engine said that all I have to do is go into my class. I have to create, you know, include my header files for the objects I'm trying to create. Then do this, just create an object inside of this class, and then in the root of the application, simply when I create that object, just set the dummy object that I create inside of the class, set it to the object that's being created here. And this works, right? So why is everybody telling me about this complicated stuff with pointers when this was the solution? It just, you know. Like at that point, I was just looking for a solution that worked, right? And when I kept getting a lot of flack that, oh, you're not supposed to do that, it's bad programming practice. Well, you know, I don't have a solution that works at all. What's CPP object player? CPP object player is the object of player class. So I have, yeah, here we go. So I have my class object player, and then I create, or I have my class DTC player, and I create an object using this class. It's basically doing a copy. So hold on. Well, it does a copy of what? Does it copy the object, or does it so does it create a second object, or does it make a reference of it? That's what I'm wondering. Copy of player. So, but doesn't that mean? But these would be two identical objects in that case, right? Just same variables, just different object IDs. Am I right? Yeah, okay, so what happens, this is kind of weird because I have a script. So when I create the object player in the begin event, I have a script that sets up the player. Yeah, here we go. CPP object player setup. You can change DTC handle in your header. Oh, you mean over here? And what is that gonna do? Is that gonna just change, make it a blank thing so that it would take a reference? Notice the star sign. Yes. Oh, that's the creation. It's a pointer. Ah, so in the header. Ah, I see. Okay. I see how it is. Then in your other file, you mean the core course, the core class? Player equals and CPP object player. Oh, okay, I see what it is. Okay, so I will, let me follow this for a second. So in the header, so we're gonna do this star handle player equals null ptr, whoops, equals null ptr. Okay, so this creates a pointer, or this makes this into a pointer, and then you said up here where I'm setting the variable, this has to be set to equals I see. So it'll be a pointer to the object rather than a copy. Let's see. Function does not take one argument, set object position. Okay, so this is internal stuff. So maybe now I'm actually going to be able to get the appropriate debugging stuff. So okay, so this is where I'm trying to access that object that I created, that I've set here. So this is the handle now is set to point to the object that we've created. So right now it says expression must have a type. So I'm guessing I have to use the pointer in front of every one of them. No, that's stupid. Hold on. Oh, pointer, that's right. So I have to use this stuff. There we go. Okay, so this is how I have to access the variable now. So let me do this. Control F and copy this. Actually, if it's got a dot, come on. Yes. If it's got a dot handle player, it's gonna have to be replaced with this. Okay, so that is that. So no wonder my triggers for the glow effect weren't triggering. They were trying to get the XYZ position of an object that did not do any initialization. Okay, well, I mean, it's still not triggering, but we'll figure this out. Okay, so let's first of all, oh man, I need a better monitor. Crap. Okay. So what do we got here now? Thanks, man. Thanks for the assist. So what I'm wondering is, okay, I need to actually copy this stuff too. So, what are you up to? What's the plan for today? So in your header and Same as network doing a copy. Yes, so that's all right. So now there is a question of the glow. So the glow is triggered when the player has a contact with an object. So let me open up the player. You see player.h and player.cpp. So this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to make sure that I am getting all of the player stuff in one single header file, because this was starting to get a little too difficult to keep track of. Okay, so you got then it should be pointed to after always initialize, and in front handle player now needs to use, yep, so that's there. Same as network doing a copy. I see. Okay, all right. I'm extremely lucky to have people helping me out with this stuff. C++ is a foreign subject to me. Okay, so I know that this stuff works, because this stuff, this is actually kind of weird. Why exactly? This would be the update script, level update. Well, I don't have a level update here, actually. Probably that's why it's not running. So this is the begin script. Unless I was just searching in selections. No. Bloom, here we go. So CPP, OBJ. What would you say is the more professional or reliable way of organizing your project? I mean, being at a game or something else, what's the more appropriate way of organizing your content into headers? Because right now I'm gonna start the application by creating the main menu object, which will in the constructor load up all the 3D objects, textures, and sprites for the main menu. Then there's going to be a function that's basically an update function that's going to be run all the time on a loop, and it's going to be checking, which game mode the player is selecting. At which point, if he's going to select, the next level, I'm going to fade the screen. Then I'm going to create an object of the level that the player selected, which once again in the constructor script is going to load up textures, 3D objects, and it's going to have its own update script. And then I'm going to position the player there in the spawn point of that level, and I'm going to destroy the object with the main menu, and it's going to run the destructor script, which has its own engine functions for unloading the texture files, the 3D maps, the 3D files, sprites, and all the other assets, right? So does that logic make sense? Thankfully this engine handles loading and destroying stuff for you. Good lord. Oh man, it makes the stuff a lot easier. So obj, excuse me, obj, yep, no, is there a way to recall the script suggestion if you misclicked? So cpp obj, and I misclick, and I need to bring that window back up. Is there a way to do it? because that would save me a lot of time. Ah, so I was talking to nobody for the past little bit. I was gonna ask, when did you leave? Because I don't remember, or I don't know. At what point was I talking when you left, or was I not talking at all? I'm sure you skipped or didn't see this question. Well, like 5 minutes doesn't tell me. I don't have the perception of time when I'm talking. For me, when I'm talking, time doesn't move. Anyways, okay, so this is a small question. This is more IDE related. So if you go cbp_obj, it pops up with the suggestions. If I misclick, which I often do, the suggestions goes away. Is there a way to bring the suggestions back up without having to retype the cpp, you know, the beginning of the function you're trying to do? That code looks good. The code looked better in the previous in the previous. Control tab, you say. What? Oh, I see it. No, that's the window. I'm running 2015. Control space. Okay, here we go. Hold on a second. That does nothing. Oh. Nope. Also control shift space. Are you just giving me random combinations? Hold on. Let's see. C++. No. Visual Studio. Bring up suggestions. Keyboard shortcut. Control space, you say. Tools options. Check what assigned to these shortcuts. Control space or Control J. So Control space does nothing. Control J brings it up. Here we go. Control J. That's what I needed. So dot level update, and I'm supposed to supply. Yeah. Control J did it for me. And Rambog, hello. How's it going? I saw your message there. Welcome to the stream. How's life? Okay, so I have level update, and it needs the window width and window height, which I have inside of the obj C obj general dot window width and window height. Here we go. So let's see. Life sucks. Yeah, pretty much. Just gotta power through it. Okay, let's see. Uh-oh. There's a head of this expression. Okay, so this either happens sometimes, and I can't really figure out why. Okay, so I gotta take a look at this. Damn, that sucks. That sucks. I'm sorry, man. I was about to say that sucks major balls, but absolutely no pun intended. That's just a saying that I say every time anything anything that sucks. I'm sorry. Oh, this is terrible. Oh, I'm going to hell. Shit. Oh, I'm horrible. I'm horrible. Anyways. So, why are you complaining about this stuff? Your code looks great. I mean, my code looks great just barely, I guess. I mean, I'm sure if you ask Evil Taco's opinion, I'm sure he'll say that this is fairly mediocre. You know what? I would rather actually it tell me where the issue is here, because then I can actually track it down. When I get issues with exceptions, I have no idea how to actually, you know, define what the issue is, what the exception actually tells me. Oh. Now it fucking worked! What the hell? Oh yeah, that's because I have the sync function there. I gotta disable it because it's got its own blur update. Yeah, because I'm doing custom post-processing stuff here. Great, now it works, and the stuff is actually shining. Now, I do have a bit of flickering going on, and that means that there's stuff that runs. I told you your code was good now. What? Wait, hold on. Rambach, did we have a conversation on something about this code before? Or are you just commenting on what you said earlier? Because I told you your code was good now is a statement that kind of confuses me a little bit. Yes. Was it on the yesterday on the oh, you're talking about the Game Dev Cafe, the conversation we had? Because I am extremely terrible at memorizing names. It doesn't help when people's usernames on Twitch are different from the ones that they have on like forums and stuff, right? So let's see, are you Mr. Zway on the Game Dev Cafe forum? Okay, and while I do that, let me go ahead and check the general bloom and blur update stuff. Gotta get that stuff done. As far as I know, there's supposed to be a swap function in here somewhere. There's the clear screen, render, draw object. Let me take a look at the project file before I started transferring stuff. Oh, for God's sakes. No, I don't want to open the template. I want to open the project. I need a reminder of stuff that I don't remember. Also, I think my stream chat monitor is not catching up to the messages. So let me just relay bot chat. Okay. Oh yeah, okay, well I can't see previous messages, so that's great. Oh well. Enable bot. Oh, here we go. View commands. There we go. Okay, so test. I just need to see if the message is actually popping up. Hey, it does. Nice. And does it pop up here? Not on YouTube, but we'll figure this out in a little bit. Okay. Template. So I had stuff. Yeah, see? It was one single file. Terrible, 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 terrible. Ugh. 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 Terrible. Okay, here we go. Right at the end. Death fade. The death fades should be in a different place. But AGK swap. This is what I need to be elsewhere. So Rambach, where exactly did we chat? Because I need to remember. If I don't remember, I won't forgive myself. Aha. So I'm not using the swap. The swap. Let's see. The swap needs to be used here. Oh. 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 Jesus. Am I really not using the swap anywhere else? I'm sure that I have this actually somewhere where it doesn't belong. So let's go ahead and find that actually. So F all current project. Swap, yes. Or I should say just find all. Aha, I do have two of them. So I have this thing in level ascension. Control Shift F for aha, got it. Thank you. So that pops up on my other screen. I see. That actually speeds things up. Thank you. Thank you for that. I think I think Randbog got upset that I didn't remember his username yesterday, apparently. So he got sad. Okay. So I am using it here, and I'm not supposed to be using it here. I'm supposed to be using it in the general script. I also have this fade function. Oh man, see, this is why the general script is where I'm supposed to be handling all of my fading. So this is not helping at all. First of all, I'm gonna have to delete like all of it. Well, except for this stuff, but this is terrible. This is just terrible. Fade on next level. Okay, so okay, technically the bloom and blur is the last function that actually gets executed. So the swap would still get executed as the last thing. Okay. So now let's see if entire solution. All open documents. Well, I should probably entire solution. Find all. Yeah, this is the only place I'm actually using it in. So, was there something before the swap? Why do I have three of these things opened? Okay. So what are you up to tonight, Evil Taco? Besides helping idiots on Twitch wrap their head around C++ code. Okay, so not a whole lot I can tell from this thing. Level update. Not much, just chilling. I see. Here, as long as you're chilling. Are you listening to any music right now? Or is me turning on any sort of music will overlap with you listening to something? Send me the code and I can see what I can do with it. I'm not. Sure. I'm not really sure about sending you code, mainly because this is a part of a learning experience for me. So I need to kind of get into the habit of, you know, creating pointers and properly setting up the code and properly, you know, debugging this stuff, because this is a learning experience for me, so that I can go further into Unreal Engine and start doing C++ programming there. Because when I tried to learn C++ programming with Unreal Engine, following the tutorials, it was just a nightmare. I could not follow anything. I did not understand half the stuff that we're talking. It was the first time me doing anything in Visual Studio, so the whole environment was foreign to me. Everything was intimidating. Everything was, yeah. Well, Unreal Engine is, it's not hard if you use blueprints, but you can't use blueprints if you have any sort of serious large-scale project in mind, right? It's just not going to work that way. It's absolutely, you'll just be wasting time trying to figure out blueprint stuff. But this is, you know, this is why I'm using App Game Kit as a way to introduce me to the Visual Studio environment. So once I'm done with this game, I'll go ahead and start looking into Unreal Engine programming, or at least start following the tutorials there. Anyways, right, so let me see if I can track down the issue with the update stuff. So first of all, let me comment out everything that has to do with the fading to the next level, because this does a lot of fade stuff, like turning the transparency of the fade effect on and off, and I don't want to do that. And since you said that you're not listening to the music, I'm gonna I know this has to do with the bloom effect that's currently going on. So as for the music, this is one of the soundtracks that I have yet to put into this game. I have to write quite a bit of music for this particular game. But this is the soundtrack that I've been listening to on a loop when alone and nobody's watching me. When I'm alone in the stream. This is one of the soundtracks for this game. Dream Temple, The Abyss. Enjoy. And that's the soundtrack. And I gotta write quite a bit more music like that for this particular game. This is besides the soundtrack that's already there. Hey, I fixed it. Okay, so I had a function that sets up the render images, to which I render the screen, then upsample and downsample, and apply the shader to, and that gives me my bloom effect. So I was not creating anything, so I think it was just creating temporary render stages. Yeah, I was telling myself, if you're copying stuff into its own function, don't forget to replace the stuff you cut with the function. Yep. Man. Well, it's slowly coming together. So, thank you so much for helping me figure out the pointer stuff. because I've been, you know, I think the guy who I was talking to earlier, I think he was from the forum that I was talking about how to set up, you know, references and pointers, and I could not wrap my head around that stuff. For some reason, it was just not clicking. So thank you so much. This is one of the games that I'm working on right now, while my other project is in mid-stasis limbo, so to speak. See, okay, so when we were talking about this stuff, he told you shared pointers. Yes. So with this stuff, can two different objects link to the same pointer? Like, as if, like if I have, yeah, so you see I have, wait, why am I? Oh yeah, okay. So I have this handle on the player, object player, right? And I see I have two objects, the network object and the level control object. They both need to grab stuff from the object player. So are they doing that right now, or is the second one gonna be overriding the first one? It's basically multiple objects getting a pointer to one object, right? Is that gonna work? So, you know, effectively, if I go to, yes, well, right now it is a copy, right? Which is probably why it's not complaining about anything. So if I went to the network header file and I found my player handle, I gotta clean this stuff up. This is just terrible. Variables, handles. They will write into the same data. Well, not concerned about writing, more concerned about reading stuff, right? Like the player position needs to be accessed both by the level object, so that it can trigger stuff based on player position, and the network object also needs to get the player position so you could send those variables to clients. They're both reading from the same variable. They're not writing to it, which I understand, you know. Even if they, like, can they still write to the variable? I know it's gonna overwrite stuff, but it really depends on when this stuff happens, right? Like, obviously it doesn't make sense, two different objects writing to the same variable, unless there's some sort of very specific special reason to it. In my mind, the impression that I got from this stuff, this was the method I was told to set the stuff up with these pointers, is this would allow me to have multiple objects addressing the same object pointer from within themselves, which by the looks of it, this is what's happening here. Anyway, so here, so I want to also make this a null pointer, so that will do the same thing. And now if I go down here in the begin script, which fires only once, if I do this, will these two now basically cancel each other out, or contradict, or prevent one from reading the variables from another? They will write into the same data, yes. So they're able to write into the same data, because I had this stupid impression that if I have more than one object pointing to the player, then they're not gonna function. So now they both point to the object player. Okay, sounds good. So this works. This is what I needed to have, you know, multiple crosstalk. In GameMaker Studio, you have this thing where you can put in ID of the object or ID of an instance, and you put dot, and now you can access its variables like health, right? Or speed or money balance. And you can access, you know, those variables if they're present inside of that object. So it seems like getting one object to access variables and functions of another object is pretty straightforward in C++. I'm not really sure why why this was the solution of the first one. Create a shared pointer. I really have to read up on pointers. I'm sure most of the stuff is answered there. Okay, so now that we have this stuff, this is so useful. So useful. This was this was the point where I had I've pretty much reached the stupor in the development. When he uses make shared, it creates the player on the heap. I see. And this allows me to get a handle on an already existing player. Is there an advantage of one over the other? Okay, so I'll also do this. Same deal. Hand level. And now the handle on level will be this thing, level ascension. And it's gotta start with the identifier. Okay, so this is the network stuff. Right. AJK network message float. Yes, absolutely. So we'll start with the level. So anything with the level dot, we have to replace with. Come on. No. What's going on? Son of a bitch. Oh, great. Computer just crashed. Woo. Well, thankfully, Studio saves your project files every time you press compile. So that was a miracle that happened. So I'm gonna reboot. Come on. Here we go. Okay. Okay, let's see. Let's read up on this stuff. So they both point to object when he uses make sure it creates a player on the heap. If you do everything on the stack, large recursion with lots of data can cause stack overflow, which basically run out of memory on the stack. I see. So in this case, I'm going to have to research the purpose and the functionality of the stack. Okay. While this thing is loading back up, I'll be right back. All right. So, Evil Taco. What keeps you on this live stream? I gotta be doing something right. Okay. Cancel loading Steam. Let me... Oh man. This entire setup is just... Ooh. Ooh, it's terrible. It works. Night Studio System Shock 2. Free trial. Interesting. Okay, here we go. Right, this is the backup stuff. You know what? Maybe next time, if I have a spare balance, I should buy when Humble Bundle has a sale on licenses for game development software. If App Game Kits can be on there, I should buy like 5 copies just to give them out to people, deserving people. So the license of it costs about $60 on Steam. And you get multi-platform exports, which is awesome. HTML5, iOS, Android, Windows. It's all code-based, but making your own level editor would not really be all that difficult. Little time-consuming, and I'd have to do one for this particular game project. But not at all an impossible task. I do have... Oh, hold on. Chat. I do have another game that I'm making in Game Maker Studio. It's the first game engine that I really took in completely for game development. Very simple to use. The level editor in Studio 2 is amazing. Very quick. Put up maybe some music as well. Let's listen to the soundtrack playlist. The various projects I've written music for. Haven't heard that one in a while. That is what? Starscream theme. What? That's not it. Here we go. So Janko, is that you lurking on the YouTube stream, or is that just my open window? All right, here we go. I have this issue with this monitor, which is really just a TV. It doesn't support native resolutions, So I end up having to scale it down. So right now you see those black bars around? That is actually touching the outermost edge of the monitor. So there's like spaces. If I maximize it, it like cuts off a part of the application on every side, which is kind of why I have the bottom bar also extended twice the space. It's a janky system all around. Making a way through. Handle player. This I gotta take a look at. Debug print. Debug print is set up as a boolean. Why is it complaining about unsafe mix of type integer and type boolean in operation? Is there a different way of comparing boolean values? That's kind of weird. What is size t to integer? Oh, okay. Oh well. Taking an awful long time to build the application. It's kind of weird. Don't crash now. Don't give me that sass. Seems to be working for the most part. I also gotta fix the grainy sampling on the shadows. Alright, let's see if I can bring in the network stuff, the online stuff, back online. Okay, so net. So what I really want to do is I want to move the network receive and network send stuff into their own functions. I believe it would be useful. So in the NAT CPP, we have this thing. Message. Making some food at the moment. Aw, man. I'm hungry. But the problem is that at about 30 minutes, I gotta start getting ready to head off to work. 5 till 10. And I don't want to waste on... I don't want to waste a single minute of that time of prep. Ah, boy. Okay, so... is client. So here's the thing that we have with the is client. I've prepared 4 functions. is client. Collect client's data for the player. Okay, so incoming message. So this is what I need to convert. So all of this, except not all of this. First we need to receive these are the receiving messages. So every single message starts with an so we get the message, we've got the we've got client ID and client message type. Everything after this needs to be put into a function. So we'll take this and we'll take that okay, this is a tricky one. So right, okay, so I'll close this. If that message is not empty, then we'll go ahead and take the integer and the float value, which is the client ID and message type, and we're gonna fire off the function that's up in the here. Server client receive. Client receive. Into that function we're going to have to supply stuff, but for now let's just go ahead and paste this here and make sure that I delete there's a rogue thing in here somewhere. Hold on a second. Come on. Paste it back. Where was the end of this thing? End of if incoming message is not blank. Okay. So blank 111. Just so that I can differentiate what this message is. Okay, let's do this again. Where was this thing? God damn it. Incoming message. That's the server. I had this like a second ago. I had this. Is client. Okay. Number of clients. Here we go. This way. So. $626. Actually, this is really all that I need. I don't need any of this stuff. 627. Lost it again. How can I lose it? For God's sakes, I need to start using bookmarks more. Oh, Lord. There we go. Okay. So this, if the incoming message has data in it, then we're gonna do client receive. Oh, come on. We're gonna supply it with incoming message, which is an integer. We're going to supply it with integer client ID. We're going to supply it with the float, which is the data type. And this actually needs to be like that. So int float. Now, too many arguments in function call. Yes, I know. Shut up. In here, we're gonna do the same thing. Integer, float. Hey, beautiful. So now the same data will essentially apply to the receiving stuff. And now it's nice and neat. At least more. 20 minutes before I have to go to work. I hate this! Why do I get super productive right before I have to go to work? Every time I have a problem, I solve it 5 minutes before I have to go to work. And then the entire work day is just long because I keep thinking about what I'm gonna do when I get home. Okay, so which functions do we have here declared? Client receive, I need to do this. Float. Right. Client input. Create host. Create client. Send client disconnected message. Destroy servers. Server send. Server receive clients. Net update. That's the function that I'm using to update stuff. So I can put net update. Technically, I don't need this stuff. Do I? Oh. Oh, what is this? What is this? These are Bloom files. Create object quads. These things actually need to be moved to the general in the setup. As far as I know. Okay. Let's just yeah, lots of leftover code. I should really get some food as well. Well, Bloom works still, so that's nice. I will have to include object network. So object network is going to be here. That's not working, which means that I should really have the function client input. Client input always be present. Ah, damn it. This is the begin script. As usual. Okay. Add update. Hey, okay, so we can type stuff in. Yay. Now, let's organize. So this is the client stuff. If server is true, now we need, and let me check the debug prints actually work as well. No, they do not. Okay, that's fine. Do I have a handle on object general? No, I do not. So let's go ahead and do that. DTC general. Okay. And general equals null pointer. Okay, and I need to, oh, it is included, okay. Except it's called general, not, why didn't I call it DTC general? Seems kind of weird. Begin script. You must be equal to the object general reference. So now I need to delete the temporary variable called debug print from the net, because this variable would need to be accessed via here. Yep. And I know it's not there yet, but it's supposed to be there, so that's where it's gonna be. Set client disconnect message. No, don't run. Ah, for God's sakes. Here we go. Now in general, debug print. It's gonna start as a false. It's already here. So why is this thing complaining? Oh, because I debug print. And what else are you complaining about? Uh-huh. Okay, hand general. There we go. And same deal over here. Nothing else? Nothing else. Okay. So now this is here and debug. I know that the debug general code somewhere either here or it's in the player for God whatever reason. Player player it's player.h. I don't see. Nope, don't do that, thank you very much. Where's the player CPP? It's supposed to be there for some reason. It's not there. Is it here? Yep, it's right here. Okay. Get that out of there. General CPP. Bloom update. I need a new function, I think. General update. Bloom update is Debugging GUI toggle. Don't need this. Don't need this. Don't need that. This should be enough, I believe. What button am I pressing? 13. 13 is supposed to be enter. And I should probably, if I'm smart, I'm also going to include general cpp obj general update if I want that function to actually do something. I don't want to go to work. Hey, nice. Okay, so that's working. What happens if I... no, it's not gonna work. And by that I mean, I know it's probably gonna work, but... yeah. Okay. Man, I wish I could just stay here, but... I've only got about 40 minutes before I have to be at work, and I haven't had any proper meal so far. So I'm gonna have to... I'm gonna have to call it the end of this stream. And I have work today from 5 till 10, so by the time I get home, I don't think I'm gonna be in a very live streamy condition energy-wise. And plus I need to push up on my sleep schedule, because that's been going to shit slowly and steadily. So, I'm doing these live streams on a daily basis. So, Evil Taco, if you're there, I know you were off grabbing food. Hyas, you came too late. I'm ending the stream right now. So yeah, Taco, if you want to follow up, you'll get a notification when I get live. It's very useful to have you around. A great valuable viewer. So yeah, I'm sure this will be interesting. I'm depressed now, nerds. Yes, Hyas. Yes, that's the way it is. That's the way game development is. So yeah, I think you're off having a meal, so I gotta leave a message for you. Anyways. It's okay. Message. Okay, I'll leave this message, and I also need to leave the Discord forum link. Okay, here we go. Here we are. Oh. Oh, he's still here. Okay. Okay, invite. Here we go. Copy. Anyways, I'm gonna end the stream. Hold on. I gotta make sure these messages actually show up. There we go. Is this gonna show up? Hope it does. Yep. And I'll send him as a message too, just in case. Okay, well, that is it. I've done all I can within the time frame that I had available. I will go ahead and get ready to go to work. And I'll see you guys in the next stream. Thanks for dropping by.